Battery.
Yeah, I saw that.
7:30.
Hey, let's call the Heritage Festival, the council to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions, deletions, or changes to the proposed agenda for this evening? Being none. Okay. Roll call.
President Schneider,
Present.
President Pro Tem Dyke,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
Councilmember Glasser,
Present.
Councilmember Kuligowski, Councilmember Powell,
Present.
Councilmember Stuffler. Present.
Hey, on to communication. So first is backhoe. We have photographs. Any presentation being made to council, either by manager or clerk treasurer?
Mr. President, I included
Manager?
those photos in the package. I wanted you to see, this is a very effective effort done by the DPW superintendent. The backhoe that we bought, if we had to do the maintenance on it, the warranty-related maintenance, we'd have to load it up on a trailer and take it, at least 30, 40 miles to a dealership where they could, in fact, do the maintenance on it. Brian was able to find the mobile maintenance for the company, so they came and did the 1,000-hour maintenance right in the parking lot at the DPW. They changed the oil, the hydraulic fluids, greased it, put it through its tests, and they were in and out in a few hours versus the cost just of transporting it. So I thought that would be something you guys might like to know, that kind of thing is being done. And it was right there. It was perfect timing to take the picture. So that's why I took it and wanted you to be aware of how the equipment's being cared for.
Good to know. Thank you. All right. Communication number 2, Blight 5102 Kidder.
Yes, I'll take that one also. I put a couple photos in your packet outlining the 5102 Kidder address. It has been a blight issue for months. It's been on and off for a number of years, but in particular, this latest round of blight items we weren't getting a response from the property owner at all. The OEO requested court hearing for us to receive approval to clean up the site after the court found that it was in fact in violation of our ordinances. So we did receive that court order, and anytime after October 4th, the village can either pay someone or we can go in and clean up the site. That would be mowing, removal of the debris in the front yard, and removal and trimming and cleanup of that dilapidated collapsing deck in the backyard. So I wanted you to be aware of that. If you see our people there, you'll know why we're doing it.
Is it the one that's right off the park path?
Yes,
At Kidder? Okay.
yes.
Okay. Thank you for that update. And communication number 3, MDOT Category B grant denial. Manager Kerberson.
Yes, that's pretty self-explanatory. The School Street Category B project that we had submitted was denied. I received the letter on the 25th of September from MDOT. We will resubmit next year with our fingers crossed.
To make the effort. Okay, that takes care of communications. Moving on to the minutes for our February 17 meeting. Let's see what I can pick apart on this. Okay, under approval of consent agenda, item number 7. This is under police report. What is written in there, I think, is slightly misleading because Councilmember Steffler inquired, where's a written report? And the manager said that he'll write the report going forward. The manager doesn't write the police report, right? It's the chief. So I think that the manager Cooper indicated the chief will write the report going forward. That'd be more appropriate. Okay, and then Hmm. 11 of the regular agenda, second sentence of that paragraph. Clerk Treasurer Kiesler stated that many treasurers use, so we made that possessive, and I think it's not possessive. I'm a big apostrophe fan, whatever. And lastly, let's see, regular agenda, number 2, line 3. Yeah. So line 3 of the first paragraph. The sentence begins with the cost will be approximately $8,000 and requested council probably want to say to support the submission. Anybody else on council with regard to the minutes? Corrections, comments, discussion? Nope. In that case, moving on to a very long agenda, we have, let's see, general fund, major streets, local streets, Parks and Recreation Fund, Downtown Development Authority Fund, Sewer Fund, Water Fund, Equipment Fund, Payroll Register Report. Not hearing any discussion from council. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Any further discussion? Motion is brought by President Pro Tem Dykes, supported by Councilmember Steffler. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Objections? Unanimously approved by all council members in attendance. So now is the time for public comment as to any item that is on our regular agenda for this evening. Is there public comment this evening? Being none. Regular agenda item number 1 and only. Lion Safari SXS Ride Fundraiser. Is there a presentation being made with regard to this?
Mr. President, I will discuss that on behalf of the Lions Club that submitted this request to the township. They're looking to do a fundraiser. The SXS is side-by-side ORV fundraiser that the flyer for was added to the packet today. This was brought to my attention last Thursday. They were considering doing this on the 20th, I believe. Yes, the 20th. But I did not know that they were going to make a presentation to the township board this morning at a special meeting. They did that, and the reason for that is the township has an ordinance prohibiting ORVs on their roads. So the township board this morning voted to waive their ordinance from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the 20th for the specific streets that they will travel on. If you'd like, I can read them. Basically, it's Huff, Kidder, ESC, I don't know what that is.
East St. Clair.
East St. Clair, Bristol, and the Lions Hall. So, as you know, the village does not have an ORV ordinance, so there is no action we would need to take to accommodate this special event. But I wanted you to be fully aware of it, especially considering that the township board had a special meeting this morning to approve this fundraiser. So if you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them. The person that put on the presentation, well, there actually was no presentation. The board opened their meeting, they discussed it, approved it, and the people there to present to them never did make a presentation this morning. But they were unable to be at our meeting. They had a prior commitment. So again, I was familiar with the project, so I thought I would bring it to the council, keep you informed, and hopefully answer any questions you might have.
This wouldn't call for village sanctioning in any event, correct? Right, okay. So we're informed.
So are these street legal vehicles that would be driving, or just any old ATV, golf cart, what have you? Do we know?
I own a side-by-side, and it is not a street legal vehicle. That is fairly rare in the case of ORVs, but they might all be. I'm not sure.
Because I thought we had something on, I don't know if it was an ordinance or we defaulted to some type of regulation about.
There is a regulation, and the chief can verify this, that they cannot ride or cross an M road. So crossing M53, that's a state law, and they're not allowed to be on state roads. So again, that isn't something that the township discussed. They waived their ordinance on their roads that they have jurisdiction on.
It's told by a little birdie that we do have an ordinance that addresses an issue such as this. I didn't get a chance to see it. I was in trial today.
I mean, I thought we had something like
We have
Against-
something.
you can't just drive like a golf cart down the street in the
I
village.
think that, and
I know they do, but I've always been told that that's not allowed.
I believe that is, again,
Maybe not.
we have an
the case.
expert, uniform traffic code, not an ordinance of the village.
Stephen found the ordinance, but he couldn't be here this evening. Checked it out, and here's the ordinance. Like I said, I was in trial all day, so there's something. But in any event,
Do we know anything
It's-
about like safety or any plans to make sure that there's not going to be any? I mean, I would be really concerned for safety of having a bunch of people driving through the township and the village without some prior safety protocols or anything. I mean,
Well, there's still other things that take precedence, right? So the county does have an ordinance on certain roads, aside from the state roads, where you can and can't drive. Township does, which they've waived. But if you read those laws, they also say that you can't exceed 25 miles an hour. You're supposed to have a roll cage that is rated for rollover, which golf carts do not have that. So it would have to be like a side-by-side does, because they have to meet other regulations outside to be able to sell them. So I think those all still apply, even when they come into the village and then leave the village. I mean, I'd like to see the ordinance that we have, because I've looked through all of the ordinances and haven't been able to find anything that specifically says ORV or side-by-side. It might be a noise ordinance or something else, but as far as traffic goes, the village doesn't have anything specifically. I think the assumption was prior to people owning them within the village that the township had it. It applies to the whole township, which includes the village. And if you're not driving in the township, then you wouldn't be driving in the village. But
Right.
Well, in any event, so let's just say hypothetically, we have an ordinance. It's not as if we can tell them they can't do it. If in fact there's an ordinance regulating or barring that, then our police department is supposed to step forward and say, you can't be driving those on our village roads. But it's not up to us to say, you can't have this event. If they're complying with the law, great. If they're not complying with the law, wouldn't that be law enforcement's obligation? I would think. It's not for us to say, no, Lions Club, you can't do this.
But I think we can and should advise them of what the rules and regulations are within the village, so they can
That's their obligation. to
appropriately
comply.
advise the participants. I don't know.
And I'm sure they feel they've already got the green light because the township said, we'll waive our ordinance. Okay. Yeah, so I'm sure they're looking at it as thanks for the green
And
light.
I, certainly wouldn't want to put a damper on any fundraiser they're trying to do. I do have some concerns for safety though, not knowing the parameters around who's participating, what kind of vehicles are involved. Just, I don't know.
I would expect that if that ordinance in fact was found, the village ordinance that's applicable, I'll know tomorrow and I can forward it on to everybody here.
I would
Yeah,
at least like to
sure.
understand what the parameters are in terms of what can be enforced and not
Yeah,
enforced.
But I mean, really though, that I think it's something that we should applaud, that are planning ahead, that they're asking for a specific route with a laid out map, with a plan, with a time and date. From what I understand, I think the flyer says that they're going to be only at the Lions Hall at a specific time and then moving on after a certain time frame. So
Now,
yes,
riding as a group,
yes,
so it won't be
yes.
like randomly. Yeah,
Yeah, it would probably be as a group, kind of like so in the boating world, they call it a poker run. Same in the biking world, right? Is they'll move from place to place, kind of like a scavenger hunt, but in your vehicle. So I don't even know, the window is 8 to 5, but the window might be a lot smaller, that they're actually at the Lions Hall and then out of town and on to the next thing.
And it does say that they start at the bowling alley at 8 a.m.
I believe they have to have lunch at the Lions Club.
Okay.
So I would assume that it's gonna be around noon.
It's in the township, isn't it?
Yeah, but the Lions Club, they're ending at the Lions Club.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's look at the starting point. I'll see if I can come up with anything. Maybe there's nothing.
Well, and so we can pass on your concern of safety. I know those side-by-sides have seat belts, those things that the councilman mentioned. Again, I don't know that they're opening
Yeah.
it to golf carts, but I just want to make sure you were aware of the event,
Mhm.
the things that led up to me bringing it to you today. Timing was good to get it on our agenda now so that you could see it and be aware.
Yeah,
Okay.
appreciate that.
So I think we're all set with that. And is there any public comment for any non-agenda item? Any public comment this evening? Don't all jump up at once. Okay, being none. Manager Kerberson, anything to bring to council?
Yes, I do have a couple items I wanted to touch base on. We have received or have our crack seal unit that we rent annually. The team was crack sealing part of today and yesterday, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. They will be coning off and crack sealing the parking lot behind the Rustic Bluebird. They figure they'll be done in a half an hour, 45 minutes, and then move on to crack sealing throughout the day tomorrow. But I wanted you to know that that parking lot will be closed at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. The one item I wanted to touch base on is brush chipping. Next Monday, and then on the 21st of this month will be our last brush chipping for the year. So put it on your Facebooks. We put it on Facebook today for the village and the website. We want to make sure everybody knows that you were done at the end of the month, because then it's leaf time. So, and the last item is, and we can do this by an email survey. I do have a list of things I'd like to meet and talk to the council about. And I'd like to have a workshop sometime in the near future, hopefully this month. So I'll send out a suggested group of dates, and we'll see if we can come to one that meets everybody's schedule. And the final, two items. I have been working on 4 new illegal signs that I've noticed or that have popped up in the last week to 2 weeks. And the last item is the festival. I thought went excellent. The big thanks to the county sheriff's department for their help. They were instrumental in making it as effective and smooth as it was. I've sent some thank yous out to people who allowed us to use their property or provided us through me some sort of thing for the festival, like the Gator and Polaris side by side from Greenius. Very appreciated and very helpful. The guys didn't know how they would have handled it without those smaller pieces of equipment moving through the downtown to pick up trash versus a pickup truck. So I've not had any significant negative comments about the festival, and I just wanted to touch base. Our police were there, very strong presence. They did a great job. DPW staff, everybody did their job, and it went smooth, I think. That's it.
Thank you. Kim, anything to bring to council?
No, sir.
Wayne?
No, I just kind of echo what Dale had said. I got a ton of compliments on Dale himself being down there, just being active with the residents, participants, chief, again, all the staff. I just got all kinds of rants and raves about our staff and even the DDA. I think relationship was fantastic that day, and it's even the social district. I had a few residents that were hanging out in the evening and just with their dogs and really enjoyed it. So everyone was very happy. That's the feedback I had gotten.
Is that the new hot patcher that was firing up this last week, or is that the old one?
That's the brand new one. They weren't in the packet?
What's that?
There weren't 2 pictures in the packet? Oh, no, that is the chip seal or crack seal machine that we rent.
Oh,
Our
okay.
hot patcher's been out running around town for weeks.
The new one?
Yes,
Okay. The seal patcher made the park smell really nice last week.
yes. Oh, and so sorry for jumping back into it. After the Rustic Bluebird, sometime tomorrow, the pathway will be cleaned and sealed as well.
Well, speaking of the pathway, you had talked about doing trimming with approval from our tree expert. That took place, correct?
Yes.
Very well done, very well done, because it didn't look like it lost much density, but you can go down the south side now and not get your face whipped by a bunch of branches. They hosted the 5K race on Sunday, 101 participants. I went up to watch the start and ended up helping run the course a little bit at the start. And then we went down to Hamilton with my wife to Hamilton and Kidder to help guide the 10K runners. They used Eastside Sports Race, which is associated with Hanson's Running Shop. So the entire organization was pretty well done. They had a mile fun run for the kids and parents, and that went pretty well. So, and you had an officer out there checking on the runners, especially the 10K runners. They had to go all the way out to the high school and back. So the DDA organizers on that did a very good job. Andy was moving around like a crazy man, getting point to point to make sure the runners were safe. So well done. And my record's safe, so I was going to say we could do the workshop tonight, but we
As long as we accomplish that.
Right.
Absolutely. Yes, it's okay. Yeah, my way out, I think, will put you in the short time Hall of Fame. Mindy?
Sure. Before I get to park updates, I did want to ask if there was any updates on the sidewalk grant application that you submitted.
Mr. President. I contacted them 2 times because they said the announcement would come in September. I've talked to the people that oversee the money after they release it. They didn't have any clue as to when they were going to release it. And then I talked to the people who are in charge of the SSSG sidewalk grant. That's the initials. And they're tight-lipped. They have not released or said anything yet. So.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to check on the status of that. There was some chatter about support and need for that connection from Drakeshire to the rest of the community. So I thought it was timely that I could update that we applied for funding, but we're still waiting. So sounds like we're still in that same pattern. Okay, park updates. We did get to have our meeting last week after a couple months of delays just due to not being able to get the full board together. So there were a few things that we covered. One was the park policy rescission. I did bring that to the board's attention, just explaining why it had come up, reasoning behind it, and my reasoning for wanting to bring it to them before it went to a vote to council. So there were some questions about how much funding had been used so far, how much they typically use in terms of DPW funds, just so they could have in their minds, well, what does this mean? How much more money might we need? So Roberta said she would approach you with that.
Yeah, I talked to her this afternoon.
Okay. And once they saw those numbers, I think they felt more comfortable with giving what their, I think, chosen direction would be. Not that they understand they don't necessarily have a vote, but would like to give input into the process. But there was understanding on why the village had made that request in terms of equality of funding from both village and township. So there was that recognition. So I thought that was really good. And I think if my suggestion may be before we approach the township on this, there's going to be a big shift in the board and supervisor. So it may be better timing to wait until November, which is probably just the natural progression of the various meetings that will take place between now and then. So that would be my suggestion, is that we continue to provide the park board with information and then talk to the township once the new leadership is in place about future funding of DPW activities at the park. Would be my suggestion. The park board is still very interested in converting the old tennis courts into pickleball courts with some multi-purpose, maybe some basketball hoops, that sort of thing, so it can be used by the community again instead of just being sort of an eyesore. So there's some new grant opportunities the board is interested in pursuing. The question of ownership of the tennis courts did come up, and I said I would bring that to whoever's attention that would be, just to make sure there was clear understanding of whether the tennis courts were owned by the park or the village, or if there is a distinction between the two. I don't know, Kim, if you know.
Well, I know there was agreement between,
Mike Baum.
yes,
Mhm.
and the
He
village.
signed off
Yes, yes.
after, I don't
But
know,
I can't
tugging in for
remember
5
if it
years, I
was
think.
in the village of Almont's name or if it was Township Village. So I have
Park
to-
board, yeah, maybe we can just look into that, and that way we have some certainty when we do try and apply for grant funding. I also continue to encourage the board to also think about, if we cannot get grant funding, that we start to develop plans for approaching township and village about funding. It's been sitting for years and years, and we've gone out for grants and have not been successful. At some point, we have to do something.
Pickleball courts in Lakeville, over by where that little basketball court used to be.
Yeah.
And it's slowed down now since it's cooled down a little bit, but in the summertime, even in the morning, before 8 o'clock, they're out there and they get a lot of use.
Yeah, yeah.
It's extremely popular.
Mhm.
That'll bring a lot more people down to the park.
Yeah, there was some, I can't remember if it was Lakeville, but it was a nearby community that got funding through some type of senior organization to put in pickleball courts. So they were going to research
They
that.
put in a pickleball court, they put in a walking path around that entire stretch of park along the fire hall there. And they also put in a beach volleyball style volleyball pit. So.
Best guess is the village owns it. But, we'll see as to that. And that, if we got the pickleball thing going, that would be another big community type of event.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Getting-
definitely a big draw.
Yep.
Mhm.
That would be terrific.
Yeah, so board is going to be working on that in the near future, talking to the company specifically that put that one in and the person who received the grant funding. Want to pursue every avenue that we have to, trying to get some help for those funds. But that's what they'll be working on in the future. I was successful in asking the board to give me leeway to do a project in the park for flower planting. So they gave me a budget of $1,000. I plan on purchasing daffodil bulbs and planting them in the fall as park beautification efforts. Also something to draw people into the park after kind of researching some really popular local parks and a huge initiative by the city of Detroit to plant daffodils. They're really low maintenance, come back year after year after year. When they're done blooming, they start to die, you can just mow them over. So there's really low maintenance and has been something very successful in bringing people into parks in different areas to look at that. So my plan is to start small with some volunteers, do some plantings, see if it's successful. If the community likes it and supports it, to build on that year after year. So I've got some pictures I could show people of my grand plan, but I was very appreciative. They liked the idea and kind of gave me a little leeway to run with it. So that's what I plan on doing this fall. And that's it.
Lots of stuff. Steve?
I'm all set.
Okay. Relating to that Heritage Festival, I'm going to give a shout out first to Angela Edwards, the executive director who led that whole event, and the chairman, Andy Rose, and then Holly Miller, who's vice chair, and I would designate as a human dynamo. Melissa Schneider, I'm called The Rock. Ashlyn, Fountain of Youth. Krista Solid, and all the wonderful volunteers. Just fantastic. Our Almont Police Department, terrific. The sheriff's deputies. And the 30 years that I've been here, this is the best of it I have ever seen here. And it's just such, it's such a good feeling in terms of what we see happening with the village and the whole community thing. So it's not just the event, it's just putting people together. So the Village of Almont is kind of like Detroit Tigers, Detroit Lions, winners. So I wanted to give a shout out to them. We're adjourned.